On behalf of the class of 1953, I welcome General James F. Amos, United States Marine Corps retired, as the 15th speaker in the class of 53 lecture series. General Amos's military career spanned 42 years. Early in his career, he flew fighter aircraft in several Marine squadrons and later commanded an F-18 Sea Squadron on the nuclear carrier USS Theodore Roosevelt. Following his selection to general in 1998, he served as NATO forces with the NATO forces in the Balkans and later led the 3rd Marine Aircraft Wing in combat twice in Iraq. In 2010, he was assigned as the 35th Commandant of the United States Marine Corps, commanding over 220,000 Marines. I am very grateful for the opportunity to fly with and serve directly under him when we were both teaching young student naval aviators to fly. General Amos is, without a doubt, the finest military officer I've ever known. When I think of Darlington School's motto of wisdom more than knowledge, service beyond self, honor above everything, I think of General Amos. General Amos's wife, Bonnie, is also here with us today. Besides surviving 29 household moves in 42 years while raising 2 children, Bonnie had a very successful career in business for over 22 years. As First Lady of the Marine Corps, she spent 2 Christmases in Afghanistan visiting forward operating bases and bringing holiday greetings to Marines and Naval Special Ops operators. Bonnie is a tireless advocate for veterans, Marines, and their families. She travels the country as a senior advisor and spokesman for Hiring Our Heroes, a U.S. Chamber of Commerce and Toyota-sponsored organization, educating employers as to the benefits of hiring veterans. Please join me in welcoming General Ms. Amos to Darlington and General Amos to our speaker today.
Down here where I get excited. And every now and then some spittle comes out and all this stuff, so I want to get back down here in front where you're in the danger zone. Look, I'm very excited to be here. I'm also mindful that everybody in the front couple of rows, they're stuck with me, but everybody from about the 4th row back are students at Darlington, and you're in high school. And you're sitting there thinking, what have we got ourselves into here this morning in the submarine? What I'd like to do is just, I don't want you to ever take apart that I was a Marine for 42 years. I'm not asking you to disavow that. But if you set aside maybe any predispositions about the military, let me just talk about some things that I think apply here for Darlington and for us as a nation, for us as a people, American people. So I'd like to talk about that a little bit. But before I do, we live in Charlotte. So I finished 42 years in the Marine Corps. I don't like to use the term retired because that just means you're old and indolent. So I finished my last assignment in the Marine Corps 3 years ago. And we moved to Charlotte, North Carolina. And we've got children there, we've got grandkids there. And by the way, I'm trying to figure out if anybody wants to make a donation, how I can afford to get my 4 grandkids to come here to Darlington School, because they need it, trust me. But so we live in Charlotte, and that's NASCAR headquarters. I mean, it's like the NASCAR at the center of the world. And I was never a NASCAR kind of guy, but about a year ago, we were invited by a Wells Fargo executive to go to the NASCAR Hall of Fame, to go out to the Coca-Cola 600, be down the pits and do all. So we got all excited. And then my wife, because she works for Toyota of America, as a sponsor, we were just at the Daytona 500 about 4 weeks ago, and driving around the pace cars. So we're kind of getting into this NASCAR stuff. So go back a year ago when I get this email from Bill Kelly. Now, he's an Navy fighter pilot, and so everybody here calls him the distinguished Mr. Bill Kelly, but back then he was Kelso, and among all the guys, because you got to have a call sign. And so Kelso sends me this email, and he says, hey Jim, he said, I'd really like you to come to Darlington and speak to the folks at Darlington. Then I thought, this is perfect. I've been to the Coca-Cola 600, I'm going to the Daytona 500, and now I'm going to go to Darlington and the racetrack, and it's going to be awesome. Imagine my surprise about 45 days ago when I did a little bit further digging, I realized I'm not talking to Dale Earnhardt Jr. or Kyle Busch, I'm talking to a bunch of distinguished citizens and the student body of Darlington. So I actually had to figure out how I was going to do something mature and grown up. So thank you, Kelso, for the invite. I'm glad to be here. You know, when Bonnie and I drove down from Charlotte, 85, around the Beltway, which is heinous over northern Atlanta, and then up 75. And we made the turn off of 75 to come to Rome. And we were going through the country, and we stopped at the place that she was born, and where she was raised. And it's not too far from Rome. It's about halfway between 75 and here. And her parents have all passed away, her family's moved on, so we don't get there very often. In fact, it's been a long time since we've been there. So we stopped and kind of prowled around, and she showed me the house that she grew up in. And then we got in the car and came into Rome. And we drove around a little bit before we checked into the Hawthorne Hotel. And while we were driving around, we said, let's get some water for our room at the hotel. So I pull up here to Chuck's Corner, a little gas station, place right up there. And now I'd never been to Rome before, but I needed to get gas, and we needed to get some water. So she's inside, she's taking care of business in there, I'm pumping gas. And I finally finished, closed the car down, I'm sitting in it. And then Bonnie comes out, and out comes this guy, wearing kind of a scuzzy t-shirt, pair of blue jeans, and he hadn't shaved for a while. Now this isn't one of those, he hadn't shaved like, he's got one of those razors that cuts it for 3 days and you're really cool. This guy hadn't shaved, probably bathed in a while. You know, there's a reason for that. But they're coming out and they're side by side. In fact, she's kind of got her arm through this, and I'm thinking, what's going on here? And so they come up to the car, I'm kind of watching this, and they give a little hug, a little peck on the cheek, and she gets in the car. And he goes back into Chuck's Corner. And I'm thinking, what's going on here? So, after a year take off, and I said, what was that? And she said, well, I went to high school with him. And I haven't seen him for a long time. And I said, well, it looks to me like you were pretty close friends. She said, actually, we were. And I said, how close? And she said, well, we went steady, and we even talked maybe one day about getting married. And so that was it, folks. I mean, I drove as fast as I could to the Hawthorne, and I pulled up in the parking lot, jammed the brake on, and shut the car, and then turned around like this in the car, and I looked at her and I said, well, I bet you're glad you didn't marry him, huh? She looks at me and she says, why is that? And I said, because you'd be married to that guy who works at Chuck's Corner, gas station attendant. She unbuckled her seatbelt, slid over, kind of got the crotch in my arm there, and she looked at me and she said, honey, if I'd have married him, he'd have been the 35th Commandant of the Marine Corps. The former First Lady of the Marine Corps, my soulmate. Bonnie and I have been married 47 years. She's been through all the adventures, up and down, all over the world. And like Bill Kelly said, you know, she's been through, I think, 29 moves. Look, let me get serious here for just a minute and talk about a couple of things that J.J. Darlington has built into the character of this school. Before I do, I want to just mention the importance of history. You know, we're here today to kind of celebrate the class of '53. They've endowed this lecture series. You've gotten all dressed up. You came to the chapel for this. But this whole matter of our roots and the importance of what roots mean to us in our lives, I want to talk about for just a second, because they help define, you know, history helps define you know, those traditions that we hold dear. Whether it's a sport team, whether it's a college, whether it's a school, whether it's a fraternity, or whether it's a military service or a business. It defines the traditions of that organization. It helps us understand our culture. So the history here in Darlington helps us understand why we do what we do. And lastly, and I think almost as importantly, history and our culture helps us understand who we are and what we stand for. So I'm honored today to be a part of this celebration of the class of '53. We had dinner last night together, and it was I never had a formal dinner in a gymnasium on the second floor overlooking a sports field while the lacrosse team was out there on the field. I never had that, and it was exquisite, and it was great to meet the class of '53 and their spouses. You know, the school, 1905, 113 years old, you know that. But let me tell you what happened when I finally figured out I wasn't going to Darlington Raceway. And I was coming to Darlington School. And so I went online. And just like you do today, I went in and started digging about what is this Darlington School? What's this all about? What makes Darlington School so special that Bill Kelly went there? And his wife, May, went to an all-girls school and was eventually folded into Darlington School. And all their children went there. What's so special about Darlington School? And so I went back and I looked, as you open the website, it talks about the model. Now, Bill Kelly just mentioned the model, but I want to tell you from my perspective, as a Marine leader, and I've read a lot of models, I've been a part of a lot of organizations, and I've spoken to a lot of universities and schools across in groups of people, different ages. I have never, not once, not one time, have I read a model like this. Wisdom more than knowledge, service beyond self, and honor above everything. I mean, I read that, I'll tell you what. I was online in my house, in my office, and I went and I found Bonnie. And I said, I want you to come read this. Because you're going to drive down there with me, and I want you to understand where we're going. Read this model. And I've shared that model with a lot of my neighbors and friends up there in Charlotte. I said, look at this. You just don't see this today. So, you know, the school wasn't always called J.J. Darlington School. You know how it began. But what's really amazing is that it began with students, former students. Now, the school was built in 1905, 113 years old. So somewhere along the line, a group of students, graduates, like the class of '53, it may have been the class of 1915 or 10 or whatever, but it's probably several classes because they got together and they said, we're going to build a school. We're going to build a school. We're not just going to go use that building and we're going to rename it. We're going to build it. We're going to build a school and we're going to name it after Joseph James Darlington, who meant so much to us. And I thought about that and I think, you know, number one, it's a huge effort that transcends several classes. And even if it was back in 1910 or 1915 or whatever it was, it's a lot of money. In today's money, we're talking about millions of dollars. And yet this group of students thought so much of their president, or this teacher, excuse me, that they named the school after him. You've read this, you've heard this, I don't care. I'm going to read it again because I want you to hear it. Because it's going to form the basis of what I'm going to talk to you about for the next just couple of minutes. Joseph James Darlington taught at the J.M. Proctor School for Boys and Girls, where the quality of his character had so impressed his students that a group of them resolved to build a school to perpetuate the memory of their beloved teacher. For the students in here, I want you to have an appreciation for what that means. There's probably no other school across this nation, there might be, but I don't know of any, that would do something like this. That's the heritage, that's the history of your school that you're a member of today. His most vital concern, however, was the development of capable and responsible human beings, worthy of trust and responsive to it. Though he stressed the importance of sound scholarship and the necessity for discipline, his chief emphasis was always upon character and service. That's amazing. It's that subject of character and service I'd like to spend the next couple of minutes talking to you about. For the seniors that are here this morning, the ones that are down here in these front several rows, I know it works echelons this way back. To the degree that those two traits of character and service mean to you or matter to you, they will determine who you are and they'll determine what you stand for the rest of your lives. Character. Lots of definitions. I'll just tell you what it means to me. I've been around young kids all my life. I spent 42 years with 17, 18, 19, 20-year-olds. And I love them all. I'm going to talk to you about some of them here in just a minute. But character. The willingness and the courage to stand up and do what's right. Simple, plain. To do what's right. To do what's right against all odds. Even when your peers and your classmates and your friends are going one way and you know what's right. Character is the ability and the willingness to stand up and say, I'm going to go this way because I know it's right. Yesterday we were driving down from Charlotte to listen to talk radio, and it was about 9:45. And lots of chatter on talk radio about yesterday's kind of walkout at 10 o'clock across the United States in honor of the Parkland students and faculty that were lost in that tragedy exactly 30 days ago yesterday. And there was chatter back and forth by the talking heads. Some were saying, "Boy, this is great." Some were saying, "Well, you know, this is dangerous, slippery slope." Because they start the incident with the principals, the superintendents let the students go out for this. What are they going to do? What's the next thing that's going to happen across our country? And that's the slippery slope. And I've spent my last 8 years in Washington, D.C., and I understand what slippery slope means. Slippery slope is bureaucratic gibberish for, I don't want to change. I don't want to make a change. That's what slippery slope means. And I look at that, I listen to those, watch the stuff just like you have on TV. And whether you agree with it or not, that's not the point. What is the point was that there were young men and women, you call them boys and girls, that stood up and believed in something and they did something about it. Now there were kids across this nation, 2,700 schools, I understand, did this walkout yesterday. And of the 2,700 schools, I guarantee you there were a couple of knuckleheads that are just like me, that all I wanted to do was just get out of class for 17 minutes. I didn't care about any cause. I wasn't that deep. But there were kids across our nation that stood up and said, we're going to do something. And I'm of the opinion right now, and by the way, I'm a Marine, so I know about guns. I know about weapons. I own them. Okay? I got a concealed carry permit. I got the whole lot, the whole extra lot. But I think it's time for something to be done. And I'm not convinced that our Congress, I'm not convinced that our state governments, our governors, I'm not convinced that perhaps even our city officials are willing to make that stand. But I think the students across this country are willing to make that stand. And for the first time, I think we're going to see something happen as a result of that. So I looked at that yesterday. You may disagree with me, but that's okay. But I looked at that, and I guarantee you that there were young men and women, young boys and girls, that displayed a great amount of character in the last 30 days. The second part is this matter of service. Service, in the simple definition for me, is a strong sense of selflessness. A willing to put yourself aside for the benefit of others. In the United States Marine Corps, when a young man or woman, a young high school graduate, or a young college graduate says, I want to be an officer, they join the Marine Corps. And the very first thing we do when they go to boot camp or they go to officer candidate school is we take everything away from them. Everything. There's not a stitch of clothes. There's not a bracelet. There's not a St. Christopher's medal. There's nothing left on that body. And for the males that go through, there's not even a stitch of hair left on the top of their head. We're a little bit more generous than females that go through. But for 12 weeks, our job, or 14 weeks for officer candidate school, our job is to take this matter of self and set it aside. Because what we're trying to do is help that young man or woman understand the value of a team and the importance of being a team. So all of you that are athletes, all of you that play sports here, your coaches, I guarantee you, they're not shaving your head, they're not doing it, but it's a function of the team. You can be the greatest athlete, you can be the star, but it doesn't matter, it's the team that counts. And that's what we try to do. So we take this matter of self and we set it aside. Because at the end of the day, the most important person is that one on your left and that one on your right when you're in an extreme situation. That's what we talk about this matter of service. So as I thought about my own experience and how life turned out for me, I reflected back on when the president nominated me to be the 35th Commandant of the Marine Corps. President Obama, I was his first service chief to nominate, came in office for about a year. And I went and interviewed with him, and then he made a public announcement. And I had about 5 months to prepare for this job. And during that 5 months, I had another job. I was assistant commandant on the Marine Corps, so I was helping them the commandant. I was a little bit busy. But I had to focus on this thing because it was going to be different. And in that period of time, I went around and I sat with all 7 of the living former commandants of the Marine Corps. There were 7 of them. The farthest one away was down in Texas. So I got in my jet, and I had my aide with me, my Marine Lieutenant Colonel, and I had my Marine Colonel with me, my military secretary, and we would fly. And we go visit these commandants, and I wanted to sit with them. I didn't want them to tell me how to be a commandant. They wouldn't do that. But what I did want to know is, what did they learn? What were the things that were the most important things that they learned while they were? What are the things that maybe they learned the hard way that they wish they had? And so I got to the 30th Commandant of the Marine Corps, General Carl E. Bundy Jr., a great Southern gentleman, went to Auburn. I realized that's bad juju in the state of Georgia. Auburn, great Southern gentleman, and I spent time with him. And I've known General Bundy since I was a lieutenant colonel. And he always called me, by the way, he always called me by my first name. It was just part of his leadership. He never called and said, well, Colonel. It was always Jim. And he was one of those compassionate leaders, fearless in combat, great reputation. Everybody loved General Bundy, a general. And I remember going to his house and sitting with him. And I had my aides sitting here, and my military secretary had their pads out because they were taking notes. And I'm thinking, this is going to be great. And General Bundy looks across the table at me and he says, General Amos. And I knew right then something had changed. Something was about to happen. Something was different with this conversation than I've ever had with this man before, even though I've known him for 10 years. General Amos, you need to know something. As a Commandant of the Marine Corps, you are solely responsible for the spiritual health of the Marine Corps. Sat back, folded his hands, and he looked at it. Now, I was raised in a Christian home. I'm trying to think, okay, what does all this mean? Spiritual health of the Corps? What is he talking about? Is he talking about, being Catholic, or is he talking about being Baptist, or is he talking about getting saved? What's he mean here? And he just looked at me, and he could tell I had that kind of question mark over my head. And he said, and I'm not talking about religion, General Amos. Then he helped me understand. He said, I'm not talking about traditions, I'm not talking about uniforms, I'm not talking about bravado. I'm talking about the things that really count. I'm talking about the things that define who we are as Marines and what we stand for. And then the light went on. He was talking about the soul of the Marine Corps. He was telling me that if you, and he did at the end, he looked at me and pointed his finger, General Amos, if you fail to maintain the spiritual health of the Marine Corps during your 4 years as the 35th Commandant, you will have failed as a Commandant. Well, I'll tell you what, you talk about take your breath away. None of us set out to fail. That's the last thing we want to do. You don't take a job, you don't become the head of this great school, this institution. You don't become a president of a business that failed. And I thought, man, I don't want to be the guy that fails. And I realized then that all of a sudden now, I was going to become the dad of the Marine Corps. And when you're the dad, you look at things from a different perspective. I began to look at Marines completely different. I began to understand and realize that everything they did, the successes were easy. We all love that. But those tragedies and those things that turn out to be that you have great sorrow for, I'm responsible for it. It ends at my desk. And I understood that. And I would suspect that every great leader that's ever taken a job, I would suspect that Brent Bell looks at every student leader, he knows you by name, he knows you by face and by name. He takes you personally. Your success in school, your success in academics, your success in life, the decisions you make, where you go after you graduate if you're a senior, what's happening, what are the decisions you make. I guarantee you that Brent Bell takes that personally. And the health and well-being of this school, this institution, Darlington School, he takes personally. Just like we all do. Well, I'll tell you what, when I took command of the Marine Corps in October of 2010, the landscape across the United States was pretty shaky. We just had our president had just been in the office for about a year. The Joint Chiefs of Staff were trying to adjust, trying to figure out, okay, what was the priorities of President Obama? And I served with some great Americans. Despite the many successes we had in Iraq, we finally got to a point in 2010, 2011 that were really, truly, and had been hard fought and been very costly. We truly were winning in Iraq. And yet we were told we had to withdraw. I mean, lock, stock, and barrel. So that didn't set well with those of us that had actually been there and kind of paid the price for this. And yet we were leaving. And at the same time, for the Marine Corps, we were up to our necks in Afghanistan, in southern Afghanistan, in Helmand province. The poppy capital of the world down there, fighting the Taliban. So we were up to our necks. And yet I kept thinking about what General Mundy kept telling me. You know, we're trying to adjust, and he kept, his words were haunting to me. And they haunted me, and they made me make decisions that I probably would have otherwise not made during my 4 years in combat. I thought about the young men and women, and I thought about the verse of the Marines hymn. You know, the Marines are a lot of tradition, a lot of history, and that's why I started with the importance of history and our roots. But the Marines hymn has got 4 verses, and it's the one you see at ball games and Army games and all this stuff, you know, from the halls of Montezuma to the shores of Tripoli. But in that first stanza, there are words that say, "We'll keep our honor clean." And when I first became a Marine, I just used to say it. I would sing it. And I never thought much about it. Now I'm a Commandant, and I'm looking at these young men and women. The Marine Corps is a young force. There were 240,000 Marines when I took command of the Marine Corps, between active duty and reserves. And of that, 67% were 24 years or younger. So we're the youngest of all the services because it's pretty hard on your body. The Marine Corps is a pretty physical force. And so it's a young man's game, or a young woman's game. In fact, the Marine Corps has about 20,000 teenagers. So it's 17, 18, 19-year-olds, 20,000. And so every day I woke up, 20,000 teenagers across the world woke up, and I thought, I wonder how I can mess with the Commandant of the Marine Corps today. Just like my teenage kids did in my house. I wonder how we can mess with mom and dad today. But I thought about those teenage kids, and I thought about the young Marines that in 7 years of combat. And I wondered, was it possible that the young men and women, 7 straight years of combat, are still capable of keeping their honor clean? Well, I found the answer to that in the millennial generation. You know, it was interesting, this last election that, you know, President Trump came in and Congress changed over and all that stuff. Lots of pundits were talking about the millennial generation, trying to get their votes. How do we get the votes out of the millennial generation? We can't even get them out of the basement of their parents' house. They're down there living with their wife and 2 kids, they haven't moved out, and all this stuff about millennials. Let me tell you what I found out about millennials, because I served with them. I went to war with them. The millennials of this nation were viewed with a great sense of faithfulness and fidelity towards one another. Talk about service, an absolute willingness to give their life for one another. Talk about courage to make the right decisions, courage under great duress on the battlefield. Unbelievable. So you're looking at a guy that loves millennials. I worked alongside him, I helped recruit him, and I served him. So the answer for me was absolutely yes, they can maintain their honor. They can keep their honor clean. I want to tell you the story that worked with a lot of them, obviously. I want to tell you the story of one millennial. He was from Boonesboro, Louisiana, a little town. His name was Joe Rice. Now, Joe was a star athlete coming out of high school. And he was a great student, had great grades, did well in the college boards, stayed out of trouble, wasn't a problem at home, wasn't a problem in his community. Joe Reisman was what we would call this an ideal American young man. And for whatever reason, and I don't know, because I don't know the facts behind his joining the Marine Corps. But Joe, out of high school, wanted to join the military. He didn't have to. And he certainly didn't have to join the Marine Corps. You can join the military, but you join the Marine Corps, it's a commitment. And Joe didn't have to join the Marine Corps, yet he did. And Joe didn't have to become an infantryman in the Marine Corps, and yet he did. You know, it's for Kelso and I flying airplanes, it's different. You're up there in an air-conditioned cockpit, you're down to 10,000 feet, you're doing the business, whatever you're doing. But when you're an infantryman down there, you're down there and it's hot, and it's nasty, and it's very, very dangerous. And you're face to face with whoever it is on the other side of the field. And so it's a tough life, and Joe Reisman didn't have to do that, but yet he did. So Joe finished a successful tour in the Marine Corps 4 years. I already had one combat tour in Afghanistan. Very successful, promoted to sergeant, which for an infantryman in the first 4 years is almost unheard of. And Joe was ready to go on to college, go back to Louisiana and finish, and yet for some reason he decided he was going to re-enlist. And he was going to go back with his infantry battalion back to Afghanistan. And so they shipped out and they went. And now as a sergeant, he's a leader. And Joe Reisman had a patrol line canoe in the Helmand along the Helmand River Valley. And he had about a half a dozen United States Marines with him, and he had a whole platoon of Afghan soldiers. Now the Afghan soldiers weren't exactly well trained, but they were what we had. And so Joe was responsible for his half a dozen Marines and 28 Afghan soldiers. Each one of them carried about 80 pounds. Body armor, ammunition, radios, water, food, everything. And they were patrolling along the river, and they crossed a canal that was about 10 feet wide, about 5 feet deep, about 4 feet deep. And it was fast flowing into the Helmand River. And Joe crossed it, got over the other side just fine. The Marines followed across, a couple of the Afghan soldiers followed across. And then Joe turned around and heard a lot of flooding around her, some screaming. He turned back, the Afghan soldier was in the water, upside down. And he was flowing down the river. And Joe Reisman stood there and made an instant decision, dropped his weapon, and even though he had this 70 or 80 pounds on his body, he jumped in the water to save the Afghan soldier. Now, what you need to know is Joe Reisman didn't know how to swim. Now, that's not normal in the Marine Corps. We teach young men and women, if you don't know how to swim, you join us, we teach how to swim. But Joe Reisman got through for some reason. He didn't know how to swim. And he knew he didn't know how to swim, and yet he jumped in the water. He jumped in the water with 70 or 80 pounds on him to save a young man whose name he didn't even know, who spoke a language he didn't speak, and who came from a country that was not his. And yet Joe Wrightson was willing to do that. We pulled the bodies of both of them out of the river about 4 hours later, farther downstream up on the bank of the Helmet River. We brought Joe back to America to his hometown and gave him a full military honors burial. He was awarded our nation's second highest award, the Navy Cross. Should have had the Medal of Honor, but the Marine Corps pretty stingy about that. But my point is that Joe Wrightson, as you think about what J.J. Darlington talked about this matter of character, being willing to make the right choice, do the right thing, even when it's, in this case, dangerous or unpopular, and carry more for this person on your left and your right than you do for yourself. And Joe Wrightson drove in that river to save that young Afghan sergeant. It's incredible. I've known a lot of Joe Wrightsons over my 42 years in the Marine Corps. And I've come to understand that these are young men and women that are just imbued with more than just courage, but imbued with a selflessness attitude and an attitude of faithfulness towards one another. Well, when we think about J.J. Darlington and this matter of the Navy Cross, and what he did here with character and service, I've thought about it. I thought about your motto. I thought about the students here today. And I thought about the class of '53. And I want to tell you that I'm here today not as a recruiting pitch. I'm not here to do that today. We all have different paths we're going to walk down in life, and my path happened to turn out to be the way it was, and it didn't really start out that way, but God was kind of faithful to direct me, and I ended up where I was. But because I was fortunate to spend 42 years in the Marine Corps along with America's youth, I came to understand the young men and women of our country. They come from all across our great nation. Some are Democrats, some are Republicans. Honestly, the young ones don't even know what they are yet because they haven't figured it out. They come from all walks of life. Some of them come from great homes that are just picturesque, and some come from not so great homes where the home is completely full of acrimony and disharmony. Some come from great schools like Darlington School, and others come from high schools that they have to struggle just to be able to get their high school degree and be able to get out with any kind of education. But they all have this one thing in common, every one of them. They wanted to be part of something greater than themselves. They were willing to set aside their personal comforts for a time to do something that they never dreamed they'd ever be a part of. And most, not all of them, but most of them became men and women of character and of purpose. So my closing message here this morning to really the seniors, not so much the class of '53, but the seniors is this. It's pretty simple. I encourage you to elevate your sights. Finish your education here, but look beyond this most wonderful institution and determine for yourself what really matters in life. This great school is named after J.J. Darlington by mistake. It was done on purpose by graduates just like the class of '53 and just like the class of 2018 will soon be. I challenge you to dedicate yourselves to becoming men and women of character. Men and women willing to take a stand against all odds in some cases. Men and women of service where you worry about the person on your left more than you do yourself. I challenge each of you to look for some way to serve our great nation. Some way to make a difference in our great country. Perhaps our 26th president, Theodore Roosevelt, said it best. And I'll conclude with this. It's not the critic who counts. It's not the man who points out how the strong man stumbled or where the doer of deeds could have done better. The credit belongs to the man who is actually in the arena, whose face is marred by dust and sweat and blood, who strives valiantly, who errs and comes short again and again, who knows the great enthusiasms, the great devotions, and spends himself in a worthy cause, who at best knows achievement, and who at worst, if he fails, at least fails while very great, so that his place shall never be with those cold and timid souls who know neither victory nor defeat. Kelso and Brent, thank you very much for inviting me. For class of 53, thank you for dinner last night, for honoring my wife and I, and allowing us to be a part of this. And for the students at Darlington School, God bless every one of you. You will look back one day and realize what a wonderful opportunity you've had. So thank you for putting up with me for so great.